Let's talk to Joe Ventry, who is Digital Campaign Manager at the Taxpayers Alliance, about this. Joe, you're very welcome to Talk a Breakfast. How are you doing?
Good morning, Peter. Thank you for having me on.
No worries at all. It's a pleasure to have you on. Keir Starmer is launching this in Swindon in Wiltshire later on. That is in the constituency of South Swindon currently. Robert Buckland is the MP there, and he will be under pressure in 2024, no doubt. So I'm sure the sighting of that, Heidi Alexander is the Labour candidate there, former Deputy Mayor of London. Joe, how can they do this? Is it actually possible? Because we heard from James Heal there that the sums may not quite add up. But what do we expect to hear from Keir Starmer later? And do you have an open mind or a closed one?
Well, this is the thing, Peter. I think the Leader of the Opposition is absolutely right to raise the problem of council tax, to put that at the forefront of a campaign. It's an enormous burden on households at the moment, and we know this year, for the first time, average Band D bills across the country are now going to be exceeding £2,000, which is a really sad benchmark. Unfortunately, I think the cure to the solution that he's got to the problem, which is to slap yet another windfall tax, or should I say expand the windfall tax on these oil and gas companies, is just completely the wrong one. It's unsustainable. It's not a good way to run an economy.
Why is it unsustainable? I mean, they're making huge profits. Surely it's a good revenue stream for the government or for a possible Labour government.
Well, revenue with these big companies goes up and down year by year quite dramatically. And I think what we're going to see...
Surely they're a good place to go to get some money into the economy.
Well, of course, profits ultimately are reinvested in a lot of cases, Peter, and that is what the big concern is here, is that these windfall taxes are driving away investment. And we're already seeing that. We're seeing 90% of oil and gas companies in the North Sea are pulling investment to the tune of billions of pounds. And ultimately, that is degrading our domestic energy supply. And I think it's a really concerning, long-standing development. And I think it's not the way to fix the council tax rises that we're seeing.
So if the sums don't add up, is this just a gimmick then, do you think?
I think so. I think it's in a lot of ways posturing. I think, we've seen the Labour government, the Labour opposition recently expose billions of pounds in central government and done quite a good job of that, actually, done a lot of due diligence. And I think if they were to apply that same diligence to local authorities, where we still see, millions upon millions of pounds wasted, we could see a much more sustainable, much more popular solution to these council tax rises, which is that those councils would cut waste and therefore leave room for council tax cuts in the future.
What sort of waste should they cut? Because a lot of people who will have got their council tax bills in the last few days will say, well, what does my council actually do for me? They lift the bins, they sort out the roads, but aside from that, what do councils actually do? And there are a lot of things that councils do, but for a lot of people, they don't use those services.
Well, absolutely. And the problem is we still see widespread waste across local authorities. Every year we look into the number of town hall bosses that receive over £100,000 of total remuneration. And, that is in the thousands, and it actually went up during the pandemic. So at this time when, of course, we heard the councils were stretched to the bone, it actually went up during that time. We still see these, enormous sums, millions of pounds going towards council artwork that, a lot of people would question the need for. And then, of course, the absolute clangers that we've seen in places like Croydon, where the councils have actually mismanaged their finances to the extent where they're essentially going bankrupt. And, of course, residents are now left with a 15% council tax rise.
Joe, thank you. That's Joe Ventry there. He's Digital Campaign Manager of the Taxpayers Alliance.